certified on election night. And we need to make provisions not just for overseas military ballots and eligible citizens who cast their ballots today, but we should also ensure that all of these absentee ballots are counted as well. I'll let it go to the president.
Donna, thank you. The first family walking in, they've spent a lot of time on the trail, but now let's listen in to the President of the United States in the East Room of the White House, coming to speak to the American people.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Please sit. Thank you. This is without question the latest news conference I've ever had. Thank you. I appreciate it very much. And I want to thank the American people for their tremendous support. Millions and millions of people voted for us tonight. And a very sad group of people is trying to disenfranchise that group of people. And we won't stand for it. We will not stand for it. I want to thank the First Lady, my entire family, and Vice President Pence, Mrs. Pence, for being with us all through this. And we were getting ready for a big celebration. We were winning everything, and all of a sudden it was just called off. The results tonight have been phenomenal, and we are getting ready. I mean, literally, we were just all set to get outside and just celebrate something that was so beautiful, so good, such a vote, such a success. The citizens of this country have come out in record numbers. This is a record. There's never been anything like it. To support our incredible movement, we won states that we weren't expected to win. Florida, we didn't win it. We won it by a lot. And we won the great state of Ohio. We won Texas. We won Texas. We won Texas by 700,000 votes, and they don't even include it in the tabulations. It's also clear that we have won Georgia. We're up by 2.5% or 117,000 votes with only 7% left. They're never going to catch us. They can't catch us. Likewise, we've clearly won North Carolina. We were up 1.4% or 77,000 votes with only approximately 5% left. They can't catch us. We also, if you look and you see Arizona, we have a lot of life in that. And somebody declared that it was a victory for, and maybe it will be. I mean, that's possible. But certainly there were a lot of votes out there that we could get, because we're now just coming into what they call Trump territory. I don't know what you call it, but these were friendly Trump voters, and that could be overturned. The gentleman that called it, I watched tonight, he said, well, we think it's fairly unlikely that he could catch. Well, fairly unlikely, and we don't even need it. We don't need that. That was just a state that if we would have gotten it, it would have been nice, Arizona. But there's a possibility, maybe even a good possibility. In fact, since I saw that originally, it's been changed and the numbers have substantially come down just in a small amount of votes. So we want that obviously to stay in play. But most importantly, we're winning Pennsylvania by a tremendous amount of votes. We're up 600, think of this. We're up 690,000 votes in Pennsylvania, 690,000. these aren't even close. It's not like, oh, it's close. With 64% of the vote in, it's going to be almost impossible to catch. And we're coming into good Pennsylvania areas where they happen to like your president. I mean, it's so we'll probably expand that. We're winning Michigan by, I'll tell you, I looked at the numbers. I said, whoa. I said, wow, that's a lot. By almost 300,000 votes, and 65% of the vote is in. And we're winning Wisconsin, so we're winning. We don't need all of them. We need, because when you add Texas in, which wasn't added, I spoke with the really wonderful governor of Texas just a little while ago, and Greg Abbott, he said, congratulations. He called me to congratulate me on winning Texas. I mean, we won Texas. I don't think they finished quite the tabulation, but there's no way. And it was almost complete, but he congratulated me. Then he said, by the way, what's going on? I've never seen anything like this. Can I tell you what? Nobody has. So we won by 107,000 votes with 81% of the vote. That's Michigan. So when you take those three states in particular, and you take all of the others, I mean, we have so many, we had such a big night. You just take a look at all of these states that we've won tonight, and then you take a look at the kind of margins that we've won them by. And all of a sudden, it's not like we're up 12 votes and we have 60% left. We won states, and all of a sudden, I said, what happened to the election? It's off. And we have all these announcers saying, what happened? And then they said, oh, because you know what happened? They knew they couldn't win. So they said, let's go to court. And did I predict this, Newt? Did I say this? I've been saying this from the day I heard they were going to send out tens of millions of ballots. I said exactly, because either they were going to win, or if they didn't win, they'll take us to court. So Florida was a tremendous victory, 377,000. Texas, as we said. Ohio, think of this. Ohio, a tremendous state, a big state. I love Ohio. We won by 8.1%, 461. Think of it. Almost 500,000 votes. North Carolina, big victory with North Carolina. And so we won there. We lead by 76,000 votes with almost nothing left. And all of a sudden, everything just stopped. This is a fraud on the American public. This is an embarrassment to our country. We were getting ready to win this election. Frankly, we did win this election. So our goal now is to ensure the integrity for the good of this nation. This is a very big moment. This is a major fraud in our nation. We want the law to be used in a proper manner. So we'll be going to the U.S. Supreme Court. We want all voting to stop. We don't want them to find any ballots at 4 o'clock in the morning and add them to the list, okay? It's a very sad moment. To me, this is a very sad moment, and we will win this, and we, as far as I'm concerned, we already have won it. So I just want to thank you, and I want to thank all of our support. I want to thank all of the people that worked with us, and Mr. Vice President, say a few words, please. Please.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to join you in thanking more than 60 million Americans who have already cast their vote for 4 more years for President Donald Trump in the White House. And while the votes continue to be counted, we're going to remain vigilant, as the President said. The right to vote has been at the center of our democracy since the founding of this nation, and we're going to protect the integrity of the vote. But I really believe with all of my heart, with the extraordinary margins, Mr. President, that you've inspired in the states that you just described, and the way that you launched this movement across the country to make America great again, I truly do believe, as you do, that we are on the road to victory and we will make America great again. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, President Trump with a pound fist on his way out of the room, saying that he had expected that they would be in the East Room tonight as part of a celebration. He heralded the record turnout, talked about all the places where he said he has won by a lot, Florida, Ohio, among others. He did take issue, obviously, with the Arizona call that we have made here tonight. He said he believed that Arizona had, quote, a lot of life in that. There's still a lot of life in that, he said, in Arizona. So perhaps, maybe they're coming around a little bit on Arizona as those numbers continue to come in tonight. But then he made it perfectly clear that he sees this as a fraud on the American people. He said it was a very sad moment tonight. And he said, frankly, we did win this election as far as he is concerned. So
he said he won in North Carolina. He's won in Georgia. We have not made those calls as of yet. He is leading. And if you look at Pennsylvania, his numbers are accurate. He is up 600,000 votes in Pennsylvania. The other numbers that he cited in these other states are accurate as well. He is up there as well. In Arizona, he is trailing by about 150,000,
155.
which is more than the margin of that he's winning in North Carolina. There you look at the numbers in Arizona. And again, we've made that call. But the president defiant, saying that this is an effort to steal the election and that, frankly, quote, we have already won this election. Vice President Pence was a little bit more retrospect in how he said it. The counting continues, he said, and will continue to make America great again. Chris Wallace.
He also said we're on the road to victory, not that we've won. Mike Pence did. This is an extremely flammable situation, and the president just threw a match into it. He hasn't won these states. Nobody is saying he's won the states. The states haven't said that he's won. This goes right back to what Joe Biden said, which is the president doesn't get to say that he's won states. The American people get to say it, and the state officials get to declare it. And I guess, and I don't know whether he literally means it, but he said, we will be going to the Supreme Court because we want all the voting to stop. Well, voting to stop, yes, but vote counting? Or these states by state law all have the opportunity, and states routinely are unable to count votes by election night or early into the morning of the day after the election, and it goes on for days. Now, there may be a question as to how long you can continue to accept ballots, but there's no question that all these states can continue to count votes for days. They don't have to certify for weeks who has won the state. That was what happened in Florida back in 2000. So I don't know if he literally meant that he's going to try to stop the counting of the vote, but I would think that would be extremely inflammatory, and frankly, I don't think it's something that the courts would allow.
Dana, but he was also saying we don't want them to find votes in Pittsburgh or any other part of Pennsylvania.
Yeah, that all of a sudden you're going to find 100,000 votes that just happen to be in some trash can behind. I think that's what he was talking about. But Ben Shapiro, who voted for the president and supports the president, he tweets just now, no, Trump has not already won the election, and it is deeply irresponsible for him to say that he has. President Trump had some amazing victories tonight that he can take credit for on the Republican side of things. Look at this, that the United States Senate is likely to stay in Republican hands. The House races I mentioned just beforehand, not only winning in some of those swing districts, but a lot of the women that he backed in this party, and Elise Stefanik, the congresswoman from New York, they have so many things that they can talk about and be proud of tonight. And to say in a posture of, I'm convinced we're going to win. I believe that these races are going to be called for me. And for us and for our movement, just hang with me for another 24 hours. Instead, now what will the headlines all be tomorrow? What will everybody be saying? That he just went a step too far.
Yeah, that he claimed victory. He walked into Hail to the Chief tonight, taking advantage, obviously, of the bully pulpit and the incumbency, and made a very forceful statement about where he thinks this is going to go.
Well, he says it's a fraud on the American people, Martha. What struck me was he sort of did a jujitsu in which he said that it wasn't, even though he said he predicted we would come to this moment in terms of having to have the courts intervene, he said they are taking us to court, suggesting the Democrats are somehow taking him to court. I was confused by this. But in his mind, he's saying he won. He won this election, and that there's something being done by the Democrats to try to undo his victory, and he sees them as taking the initiative here in terms of inviting some litigation. But to my mind, the idea that he would say that, you know what, he wants the voting stopped, I just don't understand it, and I think it's beyond the pale there.
Well, first of all, let's welcome Shannon Breen, playing the role of Britt Hume.
Shannon.
I am. I'm a slightly less curmudgeonly at this hour.
Oh, there you go. Do you have any?
That's the only difference.
Do you have any updates on the betting? No,
I don't. I feel like, do I need to pick up that part of the conversation? That's my
But now
part.
we are in legalese now. We are going down a legal road. We prepared for this as you were getting ready for the Justice Barrett hearings, that could be a possibility, and now it really does seem like it is.
Yeah, especially if we're talking about Pennsylvania. There's been so much focus, and you guys had the legal experts on, Professor Turley and Andy McCarthy, talking about this earlier, that the Supreme Court did punt on a couple of cases that people now have been saying, if they don't make this decision, it is going to come back to them, and there's now a very good possibility that happens. The Secretary of State there, or as they call it, the Secretary of the Commonwealth, has asked for these ballots to be segregated out. They come in past 8 p.m. tonight and through Friday. And Justice Alito, as I think it was Andy McCarthy talking about, joined by Justices Gorsuch and Thomas, said this may come back to us, and that subset of ballots may be contested. They may actually get to a decision on the merits. Those ballots may or may not count. And so with everything going on in Pennsylvania, this is clearly going to be litigated. And that's the most likely place that it will ultimately end up, is at the Supreme Court.
What about the Supreme Court decision that they made, essentially extending the Pennsylvania deadline? And that didn't seem to fit with previous how they approached it.
Well, what they did in one decision was to not give an injunction. So they allowed it to move forward without deciding on the merits. Then the GOP in Pennsylvania came back, some of the leaders, and said, well, can we get an expedited decision? And then they voted 5-3 against taking it up in an expedited fashion. So they haven't ruled on the merits of this thing, but Justice Alito and the two who joined him left this opening to say, you can probably come back to us and we can probably get to the merits on this on another day, probably hoping that it wouldn't come back to them, but now it looks very much like that's a strong possibility.
Yeah. Obviously, Justice Amy Coney Barrett is now in the mix on this. She was able to kind of say, I can't weigh in on a couple of items as soon as she began wearing the robe. She cannot take a pass on any of this that's happening now, I wouldn't imagine, because it will be starting fresh at this point.
Right. Remember that Senator Cory Booker, just a couple of weeks ago, when she was still not yet confirmed, said, I think she needs to recuse from anything that comes up to the Supreme Court that has to do with the 2020 election and President Trump. But then that begged the question, well, what about Justices Gorsuch and Kavanaugh? If you're just going to say somebody appointed by President Trump can't decide a case about him, then you'd have to say all three of them have to recuse. The Supreme Court Code of Ethics is set so that only a justice can recuse themselves. No one can force them to. There is, a lot of leeway for them to say, oh, I have a financial interest, or I know a party in this case. Very rare that they recuse. They do it, but no one can force them to do it. They have to make the decision themselves. And I see no reason why she would say, okay, I'm out.
Can we go up to Bill Hemmer for a second?
Hello.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Hey.
Hello.
I'm the man behind the curtain now.
There you go. It is the Georgia, North Carolina. The president said he's won both of those states. We haven't called either one of them. We obviously haven't called this election. But Georgia and North Carolina, we talked to the decision desk. They didn't think that it was going to be called tonight. But where are we in Georgia?
Georgia at the moment, 93% of the ballots are in. The president holds on to about a 3-point lead in Georgia at the moment. It looks to be pretty comfortable. But then when you listen to the decision desk, you think about the mail ballots that still may not have been counted. Could this change with 7% of the vote not counted? I guess it could, but right now it looks pretty comfortable for the red team. Here's Fulton County, Georgia, right? Biden, an easy winner, but that was pretty much expected. Here's DeKalb County. Well, we had about 2 hours ago, but DeKalb County had an issue. Yeah, right, but they got it straightened out because this vote here is rather reflective of 2016. And Biden's up in the 80% margin, which is where you would expect him to be, just east of Atlanta. Now, how does this change? What else can be thrown in here? Where else do you go on the map for Joe Biden to try and overcome this deficit here? I mean, this Cobb County, 2016. Here's where it was. I mean, pretty much all that vote is in there in Cobb County. Maybe it's up here in Gwinnett. But again, this vote seems to be pretty much accounted for. So where that 7% comes from, I think at the moment, Brett, it's safe to say it's a hard hurdle to climb for Biden this late in the night. Here's what we see in North Carolina, however. It's a slimmer margin here, just a bit more than a point. I'd say 0.4. 94% of the ballots in here in North Carolina. Are there more out here to help Joe Biden overcome this? I guess you can make the case it is because we haven't called it yet, but where those votes come from, it's difficult to say.
And Bill, just one real quick, Pennsylvania, 600,000. That's a big hurdle.
You're right, and you've got 3/4 of the vote counted in Pennsylvania already. I thought, Brett and Martha, that we would be nowhere near this number of ballots counted in Pennsylvania tonight.
Right.
They've been warning us for days, right, that they were going to count for some time, and they still might. Remember, you get the postmark today in the mail. They counted as late as Friday, which is 3 days from now. Here's Philadelphia and the surrounding area here. I think this is really where the action is. This is Pittsburgh over here, Allegheny. I was looking at it a short time ago. I think that based on 2016 returns, we don't have all of the vote in for Pittsburgh, which is Allegheny County, but it's getting pretty close here based on the margins we're seeing as compared to 4 years ago. I'll just pop over here to Philadelphia again. I showed you Bucks County. There's a fair amount in now. These are all the collar counties around Philadelphia, which is right here. I'll come back to that in a moment. Montgomery County, let's compare from 2000. I haven't done this yet. Let's see, from 2016. That's a pretty solid vote as it compares to 4 years ago. So I'm going to say pretty much Montgomery County is accounted for here. Now, this is Chester County, PA. Really, I'm very tight in that county. I haven't checked this either. So, well, there's a few, it seems to be about 40, maybe 50,000 ballots still out in Chester County. So we'll be patient with that. Then pop on over here into Delaware County. That was 2016. This is 2020. I got a lot of these ballots in when you compare it to 4 years ago. Then I'll come to the big one here, the city of Philadelphia and the county.
He's out of it.
Biden was 73.5, 101 for Trump, 25.7. Heavily Democratic county, heavily Democratic city. Here you are in 2016 now. So she was well over. She's almost at 85% with 560,000 raw votes. So he's below that for the moment at 289,000. And I'll just do one more thing for you. Do we got the time? I think we do, right? I mean, we're just right.
Yeah, keep going.
So this is Michigan. Now, I think this is really interesting. I mean, you got a margin here of about 250,000 votes here. Here's Wayne County. This is Detroit. Well, I mean, we're starting to get some more tabulation now from Detroit. This number had been frozen for the last 2 hours. So we'll watch that. Give me a moment. We'll come back to it. And then I would say this. You've got 9% outstanding in Wisconsin. Trump's still holding on to a 4-point lead. Milwaukee County is the coin of the realm here. And I'll just check in on this. These numbers have not changed very much for several hours. So this is what you want to watch now in Milwaukee County to figure out which way Wisconsin's going to go, guys. 2:30 in the morning. Back to you.
That is
2:45, but who's counting?
2:45. We've got a lot more to talk about, I believe it or not.
We do.
So keep it here.
We'll be right back after the break.